I've literally spent 24 hours with the iPhone 10, and this moment, give or take a few moments, what are my thoughts? Does it suck? Is it magical? Let's go do it! Hey folks, my name is Jason, sometimes known as the JTL. This is Painfully Honest Tech. If this is your first time here, consider subscribing for more iPhone and cell phone and tech-related content. And if you like this video, if it helps you out at all, if it resonates, that kind of thing, maybe giving me one of them thumbs that goes in the upward direction would be awesome. Thank you. Commercial over. When the iPhone 10 was first announced, I was really, and I mean really skeptical. I made a nearly embarrassing number of videos musing on whether or not the Wizards of Cupertino had finally lost their mojo. There were several aspects of the iPhone 10 that gave me pause, specifically FaceID, which I was sure couldn't work half as well as it needed to be the only way to unlock the phone. I wasn't sure the UI or the UX, that's the user interface or the user experience, could hold up to such a drastic change to the notch, which is but ugly, but has the strange effect of becoming the iPhone's most identifying feature, and it also kind of disappears a little bit after you use the phone for a while. And finally, while I was happy to see Apple up their game in the build department, bringing in stainless steel and some pretty sweet candy-like glass, I was worried about how both would hold up cosmetically through everyday use and wear and tear. The iPhone 8 I used for a while got a pretty big scratch on the back after just a day or so, and I have no idea how it got there. So after 24 hours, how do I feel about my experience with the iPhone 10? I'll start by saying the changes here are so drastic in some areas that 24 hours is definitely not enough time to have a fully formed opinion. I'll go through everything that I can think of, give you my painfully honest good and bad, but more is still to come for sure. Let's start with the first elephant in the room that might be filled with elephants, and that is Face ID. Like I said, I just couldn't see how Face ID alone could really take on the full load of unlocking the phone. To my experience with any kind of facial recognition, that just hadn't been the case, and iris scanning was even worse, especially for people like me who wear the spectacles. I'm here to say that while Face ID hasn't worked on the first try 100% of the time, and doesn't seem to work in the dark when I don't have my glasses on, it has worked surprisingly well and surprisingly quickly. When I set up my first iPhone 10, Face ID unlocked my phone after I set it up a few times before I even realized that Face ID was doing anything. In fact, it was after I started looking at the little lock at the top, at the top of the screen, I was way more aware that Face ID was working, and that's when I started to pay attention to how well it did or didn't do. And like I said, most of the time it worked seamlessly. There were only a few times when I was lying in bed and the angle of my face must have been weird and kind of took a couple of tries. It's not my best look, trust me. And when I woke up at 3 a.m. and looked at my phone to see what time it was, it wouldn't unlock in the dark. It worked well in bright sunlight, and last night I had to drive out to get some food and it worked in the dark. I only checked it at a stoplight, I swear. It's going to take more time to get used to it, but unless there's some flaw that hasn't yet revealed itself, Face ID is a winner. Sorry, haters. Really sorry. I was also worried that after 10 years of using the home button on iOS devices, it would be too hard to get used to gesture-based UIs, but from the very first time I had to swipe up to open it, most of the gesture stuff just kind of made sense. I was already used to swiping up when opening Android devices, so the iPhone 10 so that was easy, and the iPhone 10 actually takes away a step here. You look at the phone, it unlocks nearly instantaneously, and then you swipe up. It's all really pretty seamless. You can also tap on the screen to wake it up. I I have to pay attention a little bit to what angle I need to have when it's on a table or something to get the Face ID to work, and I'll report back on that in a longer review. One thing you don't have to do is press the power or the Siri button or whatever they call it now. You can press that button to wake it up, but you don't have to. That's maybe the biggest thing I'm trying to get used to, not interacting with that side button as much as I did on previous iOS devices. Everything is definitely not perfect here. A lot of apps are not optimized for the full screen layout yet, so apps like the YouTube Creator Studio that I use a lot, and a lot of the Google apps actually, like Gmail and Calendar, are not optimized. So the usable screen area basically shrinks down to the size of like the smaller version of the previous iPhone. I didn't measure it, but that's what it looks like just about to me. That's going to get fixed soon, I'm sure. Everybody's going to catch up, but it's something I noticed and something I didn't really care for, especially coming from larger phones. The same thing is true for watching video. By default, the YouTube app puts the screen in that smaller window so you get the whole picture, but it's boxed in there. You can pinch and zoom it out full screen, but then two things happen. You lose the edges, so, you know, people's heads are cut off and maybe some text. And that, like on the Note 8 and the S8 Plus and the S8, is because of the different aspect ratio between the phone and what is a normal standard aspect ratio. 16:9 is standard, 19.5:9 is what Apple gives you. So you lose the edges, the notch protrudes into the picture. It's not terrible, but it is definitely not great. If you watch a lot of video on your phone, just be aware of this. The last area I was concerned about was the build. And while the thing is certainly beautiful and it has a really solid weight to it, that makes you really know you're holding something that's premium. The glass picks up tons of fingerprints, and I will not use the phrase fingerprint magnet. I won't use it. That's almost as bad as buttery smooth, YouTube tech people. If you carry your phone in your front jeans pocket, that'll do a pretty good job of removing the fingerprints every time you take it in and out. But if you're really sensitive to it, you can put on a case. And actually, I think a case, unfortunately, is absolutely a must for this phone. My space gray model has 2 small scratches on the edge of the screen, and I don't know how they got there. I dropped it one time like 6 inches out of my jacket pocket, and it landed on our hardwood floors. I've cracked iPhone screens doing the same thing on harder surfaces, so I either need to stop putting my phone in hoodie pockets or stop kneeling down. Other drop tests and scratch tests have shown that the strongest glass ever in a smartphone breaks very easily. Especially the glass on the back, which costs $579 to fix. Yeah, that's right. $579. That's like FU tax from Apple. They're levying this on you, the sad sack who decides not to protect your phone. By comparison, the back glass of Samsung phones costs like $20 plus labor. Jerry Rig Everything has some pretty good info on the overall durability of the phone and some good suggestions about how to protect it. I'll link his iPhone X durability video in the description below. As an aside, Jerry Rig Everything also came up with the best justification I've ever heard. For using a D-brand skin. If you crack the back of your phone, you can cover it with a skin and not pay the $579. But I'd say if you crack the back of the glass on your phone because you don't have a case on it, and you decide to use a D-brand skin to cover the crack and not a case, you're still paying idiot tax, okay? But you're only paying $20 to D-brand instead of $579 to Apple. So until you drop it again and crack the screen, I mean, I guess you're good, but putting a D-brand skin on the screen would not be as useful. It's kind of a shame, really, because this is a great looking and great feeling phone. As soon as you put it in a thicker case, it kind of loses all of its cosmetic appeal. I really like Apple's case because it somehow seems to retain the Apple-ness of the phone, but stuff like this This guy from Spec, this is a TPU case. It just looks like a phone. I guess you have to decide how potentially hard you are on your phones and make a decision from there about what kind of case you want to use. I mean, honestly, do you feel lucky, punk? Do you? And because I know they're going to want to know about the quality of the OLED screen, I'll say this. It looks really nice. It's the best screen I've ever seen on an iPhone, and iPhone screens have always been good. It's not as punchy or saturated or contrasty as the majority of tech YouTubers would say. It's very even, and the colors are very natural. If you turn off True Tone, I think you get more of what the screen looks like. The notch is there, and at this point, it hasn't really bothered me, but I still know it's there. It's not the best solution, and maybe with more time and more focus on one product instead of maybe three, Apple could have done better, but we'll only find out when we see the next phone. However, renders I've seen of some future products show all of them with the notch, iPads, everything. So, who the heck knows? As good as Apple can be at making stuff, sometimes they make super weird decisions about what's acceptable. And like I said, the notch is the iPhone's most identifying feature, as well as possibly its most annoying. So, your mileage may vary. All in all, it's a pretty darn impressive phone. Apple really pulled this off a lot better than I expected them to. There are problems, and for some, those problems aren't going to be worth going through the growing pains of this new iPhone form factor and paying over $1,000 for the privilege. For those folks, the iPhone 8 Plus is still an amazing phone. It's a bigger phone. It's the perfection of the previous iteration, the previous form factor of the iPhone. And it's worth the money that they're asking for it, if you ask me. If you don't want to take a chance on the X, then go with that. The Note 8 is still the best phone in terms of feature set, productivity with the S Pen. I mean, it's a beast. And the V30 is far away the best media/audio phone that anybody has out on the market, maybe ever. If we could somehow combine all the best features of these phones, we would have the super phone. But alas, each choice you're going to make here means you're giving up some things to get other things. Headphone jack. I have to think as the year comes to an end, which one I think is the best overall phone now that all the major releases are out. I know I sort of jumped out in front of the iPhone 8 Plus, and I still think it's really the best all-round phone for the most people, but a little more time is going to tell the tale about all the other offerings that have come after it. I've carried all the big phones from this year, and at least for a couple of weeks, so stay tuned for my wrap-up of 2017 as well as more iPhone coverage. So what are you going to do here? Are you going to go with the X? Are you going to run far away? What are you carrying right now, and why? Thanks so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. Welcome to all you new folks. I appreciate you being here. Welcome to all you folks who have come back to see me again. If you liked the video, thumbs up the video because it helps. If you want to see more, you can subscribe, and commercial 2 is over. My name's Jason, sometimes known as the JTL. This is Painfully Honest Tech, my 24 hours with the iPhone X thingy. Until the next time, I'm out.